Okay, well, hello again, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for being here. So tonight we'll be going through Communicating to Win 201, so the second episode in this communications training series as part of the activist training program. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Amara Johnson. I'm the communications associate for the League of Women Voters of New Jersey. I have almost 6 years of experience working in nonprofit communications. I've worked in agency settings and also in nonprofit settings. And I'm really excited to be here tonight to continue this series and to give you some helpful insights as to communicating your mission and goals. So, a little bit about the League. Um, So the League of Women Voters of New Jersey encourages informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues, voter rights, education, and advocacy. The League is also nonpartisan and does not support opposing candidates or political parties at any level of government. So that's a little bit about the League. Some housekeeping. So the training will be recorded. There will also be a follow-up email sent with materials highlighted in the training. So that may include, links shared or specific information that might be helpful. If you're not speaking, please mute yourself to minimize sound issues. I will be monitoring the chat as best I can. So feel free to engage there. There will be parts of the training where you can engage and share your thoughts. Also, make sure to identify yourself. So name, league, pronouns when asking questions or sharing your thoughts. Okay, so some community norms. Bring your full self and limit distractions. What is learned here leaves here. So that's just saying, whatever you take from this training, whatever is exciting or you're ready to apply in your day to day, be sure to share it with those in your network. No one knows everything. Together we know a lot, and assume positive intent. Okay, so some goals for this training. Um, I'm hoping you learn, more essentials when it comes to finding your audience. So the second piece of the gamer acronym that we discussed last episode. There will be some tools for navigating Facebook, for creating your messaging and finding your audience, and then also setting foundations for creating engaging messaging. So here's our agenda. So we'll start with an icebreaker, just to kind of get the creative juices flowing. Then we'll talk about some takeaways from last series or last episode, just to update everybody and show our starting point. Then we'll move into understanding audience. So that will be sort of the core lesson of this episode. And then planning with Facebook, which, as I mentioned earlier, we'll talk about how Facebook can help with messaging and audience research. And then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. Okay, so for our icebreaker, we have this game audience matchup. So we have 3 audience profiles. We have the information seeker, the scroller, and the organizer. I would like you to pick one of these profiles. You can pick the one that maybe reflects your communication style, and then go ahead and put that in the chat. Okay, I see some responses there. So now I'm going to give you all a prompt and I will put that in the chat. So you've chosen the profile that most describes your communication style, how you use social media. So my prompt for you is, what kind of message do you think would work best for your profile? And I will also put that in the chat. Go ahead and just re-put the number of profile that you chose, and then what message you think would work for that.
Hi. Would you mind just clarifying like message, I guess? Oh, sorry. Got it. Like type of message?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
So what I'm hoping people gain from this exercise, one, I think it would be really surprising to see um, the response from somebody who may have your shared communication style. Maybe it's different. Um, or if there was a profile that you're curious about, one that's completely opposite to you, uh, what does that look like? How do they, how are they wanting their message to come across, or what do they find to be important when it comes to engaging online? And so I'll give people, a little bit more time to share their thoughts in the chat. But this is a really great exercise to just kind of get your creative juices flowing and try to get in the mindset of people who may be the same communication style as you or complete opposite. Okay. So moving on to a quick refresher. So these are two main topics that we discussed in the last episode. So Gamer, as I mentioned earlier, is a framework you can use to start a communications plan. The acronym stands for Goal, Audience, Message, Eyes, and Results. And then communications. So we went through the difference between communication and communications. Communications being a term referencing mass communications or using technology to send and receive messages from the public. When used for social impact work and also organizing work, communications can be a great way to create messaging that's resonant, to tap into shared cultural truths, and to give people, sort of a rallying cry to issues that they might be facing in their communities. Okay, so here's another moment to engage in the chat. If you did use Gamer, the acronym from last episode, um, let me know how that helped you kind of define your goal or define your why, or really any takeaways that you got from using that tool. Okay, so now we'll get into some new material. So we'll be talking about understanding audience, reaching people that matter. So deepening concepts from 101. When I say audience in communications, audience refers to individuals meant to receive or engage with the message you're trying to convey. So that can be, people that you're interacting with online, that can be followers, that can be other organizations or, teams or groups that are doing adjacent work. When considering a communications plan, it's important to note the different types of audiences. So the three main types of audiences we have are the primary audience, the secondary audience, and the hidden audience. So your primary audience, and that is the group that we'll talk mainly about today, is your target audience. So people that you are intending to reach, people you're crafting your messaging to reach, and people that you are going to spend a lot of time researching so that your message comes across accurately to them. Your secondary audience are people that could reasonably see the messaging or interact with the messaging that's intended for your primary audience. And then your hidden audience are people who see your messaging, but it was not intended for them. And so, an example of this, say you're trying to recruit college students for a canvassing event. You need them to help get out the vote on their college campus. And you send an email or maybe you mail a flyer. So the primary audience would be the students. The secondary audience might be their parent. They may see the flyer, the student might give the flyer to their parents, say, hey, I'm going to go to this event. They reasonably are going to see the messaging because they are, so close to the primary audience. But the hidden audience might be, somebody on campus that you're not intending to really see it. That could be, just a pedestrian walking by or having to go through campus. Or it could just be, if it's online, it could be the post that you put out is just shown to somebody from the algorithm or what the algorithm thinks that this person would engage with. But that person couldn't even be a student. So that's a brief explanation of the different types of audiences and why it is so important to make sure that you research and that you really craft your messaging so that it can be seen from all these audiences and not be taken out of context and still be resonant. Okay, so when understanding your audience, researching, one key tool is building an audience persona, which is sort of what we did during the icebreaker exercise. So an audience persona is a semi-fictional profile you create that represents your ideal audience or your primary audience. These are usually developed in tandem with market research, but can also be done at the beginning stages of a communications plan to help level set and inform messaging strategy. So you can get as granular as you would like with this, but the basic idea is putting your head into the shoes of the person that you're trying to reach out to and, writing that down, taking note of it, so that when you are ready to make your posts, set up, a campaign for an event or a special action, that what you're developing is the most likely to be seen and to be resonant with the people that you want it to be resonant for. So what goes into an audience persona? One starting point, you can ask yourself, what kind of person am I trying to engage or get on board with my project? Think about, if you are going to an event or you've been to a series of events, if there's a group of people in your community, a demographic in your community that you don't see there and you would like to see there, try and think about who you know that you can talk to see what issues they might be facing or what needs that they might have. Or if there's, an age group, like you want to see more young people involved in the cause that you have or to show up at the events that you host. Ask who you know, maybe do some research online to see how they spend their time online, what platforms might be most effective to reaching them. So when it comes to research, we have qualitative versus quantitative research. So qualitative is Usually it's information that is non-numeric. So it's what you would gain from conducting interviews, conducting focus groups, any personal observations that you might have, talking with those in your network, talking to friends and family. That would be qualitative research. Quantitative research is numeric, it's data-based. That's, reading a report from Pew Research Center or, maybe seeing what experiments have been done on different messaging techniques or different platforms, reading surveys, or, if you have a business page or you have a business page on Instagram or on another social platform, a lot of times they have analytic dashboards that show you how people are engaging with content, what their demographics are, and that would all be considered quantitative research. I would suggest using both when trying to create your audience persona and then also when developing your messaging. Okay, so here are some credible sources for quantitative information. We've got Pew Research Center, the US Census, if you're trying to get an idea of population, demographics, or geography, Harvard Business Review. They usually have a lot of studies that they publish on the effects of social media or just, emergent trends in marketing that could be useful. And then Google Scholar, which is really just like a web search filter. It's used in academic circles to find research studies and things of that nature. So it could be a good tool for locating primary and secondary sources. All right, so when it comes to breaking research down for a persona, here's an example that you can use. You want to list demographics, things that you've gathered from your qualitative and quantitative research, and then also psychographics, which are, um, your target audiences or the people you're trying to reach is internal motivations, goals, or maybe concerns or barriers. So an example that we have John Doe. He's male, he's 21. He has some college education. He works as a retail associate. So maybe part-time flex hours. He lives in Trenton. Because he's 21, we know that he's a Gen Zer. And from doing, some quantitative research, we find that they respond best to short form video content or aspirational images. John is motivated by helping people. He just voted this year, so he is really focused on giving back to his community and wants to be more locally involved, ideally doing canvassing events. But he's hesitant about maybe not having prior experience or having time commitment restraints due to his work schedule. So just, from doing maybe 20 or 30 minutes of research, you can paint like a really detailed picture of who you're talking to, of who is going to see your message and decide whether or not they are going to carry your message forward. Okay, so why does this matter? Why does making an audience persona matter? Spending, this time researching matter. I'd like to go back to the different audiences that I mentioned earlier and how it is very important to ensure that what you're putting out, especially on digital platforms, is consistent and, can't easily be taken out of context. And then also, it can help if there are certain cultural shifts, if there are certain changes in how people consume information. Maybe there's distrust with a certain platform, or there are emerging trends that make, one messaging tool less desirable than another. If you understand the people you're trying to reach, then it's easy for you to adjust. And you can trust that when they see your content, that there is a level of recognition and understanding there, and they're more likely to join your
Dude,
cause and
do
to
we, are we,
carry
are
that
we part
message
of a
forward.
cafe in Brooklyn? Like, this is not a house.
Um, so that's why it's very important.
Dude, it's gonna look like we have a big house and we're from Bangkok.
I think someone is unmuted.
No, or just like, yeah, it's so fitting with all the birds we have.
Okay. So moving on to Facebook. So we have different profile types. These are the three most common profile types on Facebook, and they're worth kind of considering depending on your goals for activism or for member engagement. So to start, we have the personal account, and that is your basic account that you have to make to use and access Facebook. It's designed for individuals connecting with friends, family, and community. It is your basic Facebook account. You need this account, though, excuse me, to be able to make the other two types, which is a group or a page or business page. So groups are usually used for community events, recurring events. There is a member function where if you're an admin, people can request to join your group and you can say yes or no. You can also establish group or community guidelines. And it doesn't require Facebook to like review and approve or authenticate. It's a lot easier to make. Making a page, especially a business page, can be a little bit more involved. You need a personal account to make one, but you need to put in your business information, so photo, address, and you also have to assign a page admin. And then once you're done setting it up, Facebook will review it and then authorize it for publishing. So when considering what profile type to create, here are just some points to consider. So if you just want to use your personal account, then that's totally fine. It's good for direct outreach, it's personable, and it is required for all their accounts. So if you ever decide to change your mind and make a group or make a business page, you can. I would say the only downside is that it is your personal account. So that may not have personal information on it, but you would be posting, maybe like event content along with, your personal updates in your life. And it doesn't have that many analytics. So if you wanted to use Facebook to conduct, quantitative research, it's kind of hard to do that on just a personal account. Using a business page account, you can access meta analytics, which is the dashboard that I mentioned earlier. We'll also take a look at that a little bit later. You can run ads if you want to. And then it is a little bit less personal. It can be relatable, but you wouldn't have your personal information on there. And it also establishes organizational authority because it would be shown as a business page and you can update, the header images and things of that nature to make it really reflect the business group organization that you are going for. So these are a few things to consider when deciding whether you want to keep a personal account, make a group or make a business page. Okay, so here's how to set it up. This is a screenshot from my Facebook page. So you'd want to go to this grid icon, and there will be this drop-down menu. You can click on the page icon here, or the group icon a little bit below. Once you click on that, then you'll be directed to create a page. You'll add your page name. There will be a drop-down menu here, and you can select a category. So if it is a business page, you would select it there. And then you would add more information about what your page is, or business or organization, goals and things of that nature. And then you would create a page. You would also need to populate it with the address of the organization. And then after you have added all of that information, then Facebook will review it for publishing. And so for a group, like I mentioned earlier, clicking on this grid, drop-down menu, group, add the group name, privacy level, and then Facebook will suggest friends for you to invite. And I think that it may depend on your account, but I think you get like 50 like initial invites that you can send people to help get it started. You would also have to select an admin, so it automatically made me an admin because I'm the person creating the group. You don't have to stay at admin. You can switch it to somebody else after you create your group, or you can switch group or page responsibilities accordingly. And so here we have a meta dashboard. So this is available if you have a business account. This is not my account. This is a screenshot, I think, of just like a template account to show the dashboard. This is what it looks like. And then in this left-hand menu here, you can get an overview of your page reach. You can also look at your recent content and how it's been performing, and then other metrics for your page. You could also go further on this left drop hand and look at content that you wish to schedule. There's also demographic information available. If you go over here to audience, it'll show you the ages of people, gender of people that are viewing your page, and it may also make suggestions as to the best times to post. So some best practices when using Facebook in general, and then also when you are developing your messaging according to your target audience. Do elevate important work, highlight impacts being made in your community. I think across the board, people enjoy seeing what's going on around them, what's going on locally, how people are affecting change. If you create a group, make sure you set community guidelines, test different content types. So see how graphics do versus photos versus video. If you have a business page, then you can really see how your analytics change based on the content type. And continue adjusting audience personas based on feedback and engagement. This doesn't have to be like a static thing, just, set it and forget it. Be playful with it, like maybe every 2 to 3 months, see, how people are reacting, how people are engaging, what comments they're leaving. Try out different communication styles, different media, things like that. And, see what happens, see how people respond. Of course, doing it in a calculated way. Some don'ts. So don't engage in unnecessary conversation or debate in the comments. Don't focus on virality. Everybody talks about virality, but especially with social impact work, what matters more is authenticity. And do not share extremely personal information, such as payment information or personal addresses on Facebook or really on the internet. Okay, so some final thoughts. Building your audience through strategy, research, and insight is the foundation of engaging messaging. So your homework will be to create an audience persona based on an upcoming event, project, or organizational goal. What person are you trying to reach? What's their story? Try, doing a demographic breakdown, um, psychographic breakdown, and really try to get into um, the shoes of the person that you're trying to reach. Okay, and with that said, um, I'm open for any questions that you may have. Feel free to drop them in the chat. Okay, so I am seeing now a question from Dr. White. Does audience persona change? That is a really good question. Um, I would say that it can change. It really depends on the goals that you're setting out for your communications plan, um, and who you're trying to reach. Um, I will say that it is a tool to kind of help make sure that the messaging you create is relatable and personable. So, the people you're trying to reach may change depending on cultural shifts and things like that, which is why it's important to just kind of keep a finger on the pulse of how and what is going on social media and how people are getting their information. Do these tips apply to Instagram and other platforms? That is a great question. So I chose Facebook, one, because it was mentioned during the last episode, and two, because that's where the most amount of people from all ages sort of go. Um, they can be applied to Instagram, so creating an audience persona applies. And then also that meta dashboard that I showed you all. Meta has Facebook and Instagram. So your analytics are going to be shown on Facebook, just as much as they're shown on Instagram. Okay, do we have any other questions or suggestions for the next episode? I really like to know what, questions you guys have and what content you'd like me to cover. Okay, Stephanie says, if possible, I'm interested in learning more about the use of Facebook and Instagram ads. Okay. Methods to address an intergenerational audience. That is a great point. I would love to talk about that, so I will keep that in mind for the next episode. Okay, Mary asks, is it important to create messages on Canva to post on social media? Is it more effective than writing a post? That's a good question. So I will say that pairing written content with some kind of dynamic visual is really effective, and I think people, I would love a Canva training. Okay, I will take note of that. People are used to seeing dynamic images, whether it's photo, video, graphic design online. So pairing your messaging with a design would be very effective. Canva is just one way to do that. They have a lot of different tools for making templates. Um, but you can also do the same with photography or with video content as well. You're welcome. All right, I'll leave it a few more minutes if there are any other questions. Again, I appreciate everybody joining the call. I hope that this was helpful, and I will consider any additional topics that you would like me to cover in the future. So thanks again for taking the time. I know it's um, late and it's in the middle of the week, so I really appreciate it. All right. Thank you again, everyone. I'm going to end it here. Have a great night and be on the lookout for our recap email. Okay. Thank you again. Okay. Bye, everyone.